You are giving up. Not dramatically, not in one moment that you can point to and say, that is when it happened. Not with a decision you made consciously or a line you crossed with full awareness of what you were doing. Slowly, quietly, in a way that looks from the outside and from the inside like something else entirely. It looks like being realistic. It looks like growing up. It looks like finally understanding how the world works and adjusting your expectations accordingly. It looks like wisdom. It feels like maturity. It is giving up. And the reason most people never catch it, the reason it is allowed to run for years, sometimes decades before anyone notices, including the person it is happening to, is because it does not announce itself. It does not arrive with a feeling of defeat. It arrives with a feeling of reasonableness, of common sense, of finally seeing things clearly after years of being naive enough to believe that what you wanted was actually possible for someone like you. That feeling, that quiet, convincing, completely reasonable feeling, that is the silent killer, and it is killing you right now. Let me tell you exactly what it looks like, because you need to be able to see it clearly, specifically, without the blur of comfortable justification before you can stop it. It looks like a goal you used to talk about that you no longer mention, not because you achieved it, because somewhere along the way, without a formal announcement, without a conscious decision, you stopped believing it was going to happen, and rather than sit with the discomfort of that lost belief, you simply stopped bringing it up, stopped thinking about it, filed it somewhere in the back of your mind under the category of things that were never really meant for me. It looks like a standard you used to hold that has quietly lowered. The workout routine that used to be 5 days a week and is now 2, and not because your schedule genuinely changed, but because 2 days became easier to keep. The diet that used to be clean and has softened into mostly clean, and then into not terrible, and then into something you no longer really think about at all.
It looks like the version of yourself you used to imagine, the one that felt inevitable when you were younger, when the gap between who you were and who you were going to become felt like a matter of time rather than a question mark. Fading. Not disappearing, fading. Getting slightly less vivid every year, slightly less specific, slightly more distant, until it exists more as a vague feeling than a clear picture. A warmth you feel when you think about it, but cannot quite bring into focus anymore. That is the silent killer at work. Not taking, blurring. Because things you can see clearly, you fight for. Things that have gone blurry, you let go of without ever making the decision to let go. Here is what David Goggins would say about this, and he would not say it gently. He would say, you were lying to yourself. Not about the goal, not about the dream, about the reason it is fading. Because the story you are telling yourself, the one about being realistic, about understanding your limits, about growing up, that story is not the truth. The truth is simpler and harder. The truth is that you got tired, that the gap between where you were and where you wanted to be required more sustained effort than felt sustainable. That the results came slower than expected, and the cost came faster. And rather than reckon with that honestly, rather than look at it directly and say, this was harder than I thought, and I am going to do it anyway, you found a more comfortable explanation. You called it wisdom, and you let the goal go quiet. That is not wisdom. That is the silent killer wearing wisdom's face. Goggins never let the goal go quiet. Not when it was hard, not when the results were slow, not when his body was failing and his circumstances were impossible, and every reasonable person in his life would have understood completely if he had looked at the situation and said, this was not realistic, I see that now. He did not see that, or more precisely, he refused to see it. He refused to let the goal go blurry no matter how much sustained pressure life put on his ability to see it clearly. That refusal is not a talent. It is not something he was born with. It is a practice, a daily, deliberate, often brutal practice of keeping the picture clear when everything around you is trying to blur it. And it is available to you.
But first, you have to name what is happening. You have to pull the silent killer out of the comfortable blur it has been operating in and look at it directly. You have to say out loud to yourself with no softening, I have been giving up. Not all at once, slowly, in the specific ways that have made my life smaller than it was supposed to be. That is not a comfortable thing to say. It is not supposed to be. The discomfort of seeing it clearly is exactly what the silent killer has been protecting you from. Because as long as it is blurry, you do not have to feel the full weight of what you have been doing to yourself. Feel it. Not to punish yourself, not to spiral into self-criticism that paralyzes more than it motivates. Feel it because it is true, and because the truth, even when it is uncomfortable, is the only solid ground you can build on. Now, let's talk about how the silent killer actually operates, because understanding the mechanism is what lets you interrupt it. It works in layers. The first layer is comfort, not the dramatic comfort of luxury, the small, everyday comfort of taking the path that requires slightly less from you, the snooze instead of the alarm, the easier workout instead of the hard one, the conversation you move to tomorrow instead of having today. Each of these individually is almost nothing, a degree of difference, something no one would notice and you barely notice yourself. But they compound. Every soft choice makes the next soft choice slightly more automatic, slightly more default, slightly less like a decision, and slightly more like just what you do. And over months, over years, the accumulated weight of 10,000 small, soft choices builds a life that is measurably, significantly, undeniably smaller than the one you were building when you were still making the hard choice. The second layer is narrative, the story that forms around the soft choices to make them make sense. Because human beings cannot live comfortably with the knowledge that they are choosing comfort over growth. It creates a cognitive dissonance that is genuinely painful. So the mind builds a story that reframes the soft choices as wisdom, that reframes the lowered standards as sustainability, that reframes the quieted goal as maturity. And once the story's in place, it does something insidious. It makes the soft choices feel not just acceptable, but correct. It makes the hard choice feel excessive, unreasonable, like something only someone who does not understand their own limits would attempt. The story is the most dangerous part of the silent killer, because it makes it its accomplice. It gets your own mind working on its behalf. The third layer is time. The silent killer is patient. It does not need to win today. It needs to win enough days that the accumulation becomes permanent. It needs the goal to go blurry enough that finding it again requires more effort than the blurriness has left you with. It needs the standard to lower enough that raising it back feels like starting over. Time is always on its side, which means urgency has to be on yours. So how do you kill something silent? Something that does not announce itself, that wears the face of reason, that has your own mind helping it operate. You drag it into the light. You stop tolerating the blur. You force the clarity that the silent killer depends on you avoiding. You ask yourself, specifically, concretely, without the comfortable vagueness that lets you avoid the answer, where am I giving up right now? Not in general, in specific. What goal has gone quiet? What standard has lowered? What version of myself has gone from a clear picture to a vague warmth? Name it. All of it. Write it down if you have to. Pull it out of the comfortable blur and look at it in the full, uncomfortable light of honest examination. And then, this is the critical part, the part that separates the people who catch the silent killer from the people who let it finish the job. You recommit. Not to everything at once, not with a dramatic overhaul that burns bright for a week and then collapses under its own weight. To one thing, the most important thing, the one that if you took it back, if you brought it back into focus and held it there, would change the trajectory of everything else. Recommit to that, with the same honesty you used to name the giving up, without the story, without the comfortable reframing, just the recommitment, clear, specific,
and made with the full understanding that it is going to require something from you that comfort has made you unaccustomed to giving. Then give it anyway. This is what Goggins means when he talks about staying hard, not just in the dramatic moments, in the quiet ones, the ones where the silent killer does its best work, the alarm you set last night and negotiate with this morning, the standard you held last month and have been softening this month, the goal you believed in last year and have been letting go blurry this year. Stay hard in those moments. Keep the picture clear. Refuse the blur. Not because you never get tired. You will get tired. Not because the doubt never comes. It will come. Not because the cost is not real, or the distance is not far, or the effort is not genuinely more than comfortable. Because you have decided that the version of yourself at the end of the hard road is worth more than the comfort available on the easy one. And because you have named the silent killer for what it is. Not wisdom, not maturity, not seeing things clearly. Giving up in slow motion. And you are done with it. The picture is clear. Keep it that way.